Hi, guys. Thank you for being here on this last minute stream. Had some time tonight. I'm like, and I've really been wanting to continue this series. And then I've been thinking a lot about community lately. And as we get into like stranger and stranger and more difficult times, I think sometimes, people they want to do the three B's, beans, band-aids, and you know what else. But I feel like it's so easy to neglect the importance of community, whether it's community beforehand, in your preparations, or it's community after the fact. So I looks like we got a few people in here. Everybody's starting to slowly come in here. So yeah, before we get into that, I'll just kind of summarize a bit like of what we talked about. So so far we've talked about the fact that something's coming, like whether you're on the same page as a lot of us, or you believe that everything's all fine and dandy. Regardless, a lot of people, we feel that something's not right. We're not living in normal times, and and there's just something in the air, whether it be just people not getting along, or whether something big and bad is happening. And majority of people feel it, whether people believe in being prepared for it or just letting it happen. That's a whole other um matter entirely. But something is definitely coming our way. And if you look at the way everything is coming together, we have with food, um we have, what is it? Okay, we have the processing plants and the food, all the different food plants. Even if you're not into processed foods, sorry, I'm hearing screaming outside, so that always that always gets your attention. So all those food plants, what were we at, like 12 not too long ago? And it just keeps happening. And regardless if you're into processed foods or not, um it's concerning, because this has rippling effects throughout the entire supply chain. And then on top of it, our gas prices going up, the diesel prices go up, and then truckers start to realize, you know what, it's not worth these gas prices and this hauling, another supply chain disruption. And then if we get into diesel shortages, like Biden wants to release, or has already released, some of our strategic diesel reserves. Okay, what if we run out of diesel? There's another circumstance for even more food shortages. And then you add up China buying up farmland, Bill Gates buying up farmland, and the government paying farmers not to farm for I don't know how many seasons, and they're paying them more than what they would typically make. We're coming into a perfect storm. And you know what? And it's not just food. We could have an EMP. We could have, anything happen. We could have a ton of great reset stuff happening all at once, which is what it seems like. Sorry, what seems like is happening. Like the fact that these shortages seem man-made, right? It's not random. It's not like, oh no, we're having a drought, we're having something. Everything seems very intentional. So we're something bad is coming. And whether you think that's intentional from the WEF and the Great Reset, or whether you think it's random, either way, it's coming. And it's really important to be on the same page and come together and be ready, so you're not left dead in the cold if something happens. So I'm going to check out the chat. Thanks for being here today, guys. So I see Gregor9, Tin Top, Godfather J6, Drix, My Online Ghost. It is now Ovidian, Mr. Dolo. Thank you guys so much for coming to this last minute stream. I really appreciate that you guys are all here, and I love seeing all these familiar names and faces. Yeah, exactly, like you guys are saying, definitely not random, totally intentional. Nothing this big is random. I feel like when people are like, it's just whatever, it's going to happen anyway. It's global warming, it's this and that. It reminds me of the ostrich sticking its head in the sand, because people don't want to admit that there are forces working against us that hate us and want us all dead, for whatever reason, because we're like the little ants they want to extinguish, because they're a pest in your household. We're the pest. And for people to accept what's happening, they would have to accept that. And that's earth shattering for a lot of people. Us, we're used to it, we get it. But for other people, like, they can't cope, they can't handle that. So yeah, exactly, you will eat the bugs and be happy. And what is that guy, Klaus something, who runs the World Economic Forum? You will own nothing and be happy. Yeah, they want us to eat the crickets and to stop eating meat and to stop eating, I guess, everything that grows out of the ground, everything good. They want, that we enjoy in our life. They want us to have this drone existence where we're just there. If they're going to keep us alive, we might as well be of use to them. So they want us there just to, just to serve their purposes, to be their drones. So with everything that's happening, yeah, exactly. It all feels too coincidental. Yeah, and nothing is coincidence. And as we've seen before and we've seen throughout history, like a lot of bad things, sometimes they do happen randomly, but it's very rare. Unless it's a natural disaster, there's usually people behind orchestrating it. And we know history is always kind of changed and warped and hidden from us. So how much more is actually going on than what we're told? Um, and like, will this ever make history? Will people ever find out the truth, or are they going to be able to wipe the slate clean during this great reset? Because there's a belief that we've had many, many great resets throughout Earth history, and we don't know because they change history and wipe the slates clean and everything, and so on and so forth. Okay, Klaus Schwab, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So the same people that are not suited for self custody of their crypto, exactly. Yeah. So all those type of people in crypto, it's kind of hard to imagine them functioning in real life and imagine them trying to function through this situation. Yeah, because they can't even grasp this basic facet of crypto. Forget it. They're not going to grasp any of this. And you know what? I wish they did. I wish they would like wake up and resist and take care of themselves and take care of their family. But you know, I guess it's a they're products of our educational system, right? Don't ask questions, do as you're told, and just go with it. Be the obedient drone. So I guess our education system is working perfectly. And apparently it's not just the American educational system, a lot of the educational systems in the whole world. So that's what it's there for. That's its purpose. If you can pull your children out of school, educate them, and they will be much better off for it. And I say this as a former teacher. Um, so, oh, hey, Gen Hex. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Nice to see you here. Yeah, probably not going to happen. Yeah. I mean, they've had so many opportunities to wake up, especially these past few years, through all different topics. Even if you disagree with one, there's been so many opportunities, and the fact that they don't, you kind of feel like everybody's too far gone. And then all of a sudden, everybody seems a little too more obedient and compliant lately than usual. Like, drinking the Kool-Aid, or I was going to say something else with the Kool-Aid, but I think you know where I'm going with this. So I will leave that out before I get myself in trouble. Yeah, Klaus has clause in MetaMask. Even like the Ethereum Foundation is linked to the World Economic Forum. And I know supposedly the Ethereum Foundation doesn't actually, um, you know, have anything to do with Ethereum itself or controlling Ethereum or whatever, but I don't trust it. Still too close for comfort. MetaMask and Infura too, so I really do hope that, and you know what he is? He is building his own wallet. So you know what? I'm glad that Richard Hart is building his own wallet, because we need to be completely independent from this. Because what's the point of like having a chain that's out of the WEF's grasp, but still using their wallet? So um, yeah, we do need that RH wallet. We need RH everything right now. So thank you for RH. What is that? What is that acronym that people type? TYRH. Thank you, RH. Yeah. I hope we see it soon, but I won't be eager. But I hope so. Hope we're heading that way. So tonight I thought I would talk about as we're getting prepared and getting ready for what's coming. We've talked about the importance of food, learning to grow your own food, having more food in your house, even if you can't afford to, just little by little, grabbing an extra can or something, because so many people, it's wild, like shop every day or every 2 days. I never realized that was a thing because they keep nothing in their house. So, even just having just a few different things is being ahead, start thinking about your water filtration, how you would filter things, or where you would source water if the grid goes down. These are all things to start thinking about, because you know I think we're very much lulled into a false sense of security right now. Like the fact that we have food on the shelves, and for the most part, the grocery stores look normal, right? Um, Sorry, I was going for that sip before, but I don't think I actually took it. So, and there's no sugar in this. So before everybody thinks I'm being a sugar fiend, um, yeah. So like okay, sure, it's not back to what it usually is in the store. Usually, it's still weird in the stores. It's not at its pre 2020 levels, but for the most part, the stores are stocked. Even if they're faking it by moving things around, they're stocked. And I think that really lulls people into a false sense of security because think about during certain times during COVID when there were empty shelves, people would panic more and buy more. It would make people nervous. But the fact that everything's all good, people are like, nothing's going to happen. We're good. There's food on the shelf. People don't realize though that the way that food is like packed and processed, as gross as it sounds sometimes, but like that food could be have been grown a year or two ago. But it just through preservation methods is able to stay stable for a while. So people don't realize that's not this year's crops. Before there were problems and WEF issues. Like this is from a few couple years ago. Okay, maybe a couple is stretching it, but it's from last year. What's going to happen when that runs out? Because we're already seeing issues today, especially with diesel prices. And then forget about the fertilizer stuff. Interestingly, have you noticed um, like there in Canada, they have there's a certain area that has quite a few train derailments. But interestingly, this specific area, lately, the things that are really important keep derailing. Oh, I think there was like just potash for fertilizer or something. Just happened to derail. So it's interesting that it's not like a derailing of a train full of buttons or whatever. It's, oh, stuff you need for food making, stuff you need for food growing. So it's really convenient that there's a constant assault on food right now. But everybody's like acting like it's all good and dandy because look, we still got what we want in the grocery store. We can still get our ice cream. It's still there. They're in for a big surprise. Even if you check some of Amazon's prices, I saw a thing of like dried powdered eggs in a number 10 can, so it could like last for decades. And I think it was originally selling for like 30 something. Then all of a sudden it went out of stock for a short amount of time and it came back in for 80 something. And I know sometimes things can get weirdly listed on Amazon temporarily, depending on who the third party sellers was, but I don't think this was a third party seller. So I find it concerning that there was that big a jump on what was quote unquote survival food. So be ready with the food sources. So yeah, DCA on food, exactly. Just little by little, just add, if you have ShopRites near you, ShopRites have the can sale, which like it's just like this huge extravaganza of like really cheap canned foods. Like just go for it. But of course, buy things that you'll like and you won't be miserable eating. Okay, if you're starving, you'll eat whatever. But for the most part, but make sure you're getting things you like and think about charity. Think about when people come to your door starving. I hope you would help people. So think about, what you might need on hand if something like that happens. And, scary times we hope people, strangers wouldn't come to our door, not because we don't want to help people, but because of the dangers involved with that. But even, if it's your friends, your family, have a way to help people. So make sure if you can, you have extra. And yeah, totally. I love that. DCA in on food. Yeah, because you'll be happy you did, just like in crypto. So smaller portions on food. Yeah, exactly. Um, maybe start getting yourself used to smaller portions now so that when that happens in the future, it won't be as much of a shock. But then again, do you want to? Some people might lose weight on smaller portions. I'm like, it's going to sound morbid, but I have 10 extra pounds on me that I usually don't have, and I don't like it. And I want it to go away. But then the other side of my brain goes, well, when we're starving, then maybe you'll be happy you had those 10 extra pounds. But, that just one of those thoughts that go through my brain. So, hey, GTO, and Ovidian, and Hexander, thank you guys so much for joining us. I appreciate it. I'm always so happy to see you all here. A heart and salad. I do really like salad. I had some for dinner today. And I got, by the way, speaking of food supplies, I think one of the things we've talked about in the past, like, if you're eating simple foods, whatever you have stored up, make sure you have spices and different things that could like make it a little more appetizing. Go get some dollar store spices. Yes, I know they're not the best, but they're cheap and the rice that you're cooking, your 50-pound bag that you got stored up, maybe it'll make it taste a little better. I just had a seaweed seasoning that was amazing. And hey, you're putting a little extra potassium on your food. So just like stock up, make sure you stock up on that too. Um, so Lake Mead is so low that the Hoover Dam is not generating power. And it's interesting because that was another thing I was going to talk about. We are in a time where everybody's talking about power outages coming. And for those of us in the US, like, it's not a normal thing. And then especially like in certain regions, and it's really not a normal thing. But I will jump back to that now. I just want to catch up on this chat. Oh, smaller packaging. Okay, gotcha. All right, but hey, smaller portions works too because we will be eating smaller portions. And Lake Powell is low too. Yeah, all this is concerning, especially if you believe that there is weather tampering possible, then you're like, oh, well, maybe the droughts are intentional too to affect our power supply. But I mean, that's a really wild theory. But you know what? It's not a conspiracy theory because they admit to seeding the atmosphere in certain countries and knowing what they're doing with that type of stuff. So, hey, Flat Earth Underground, nice to see you here. And Truth Monster, I feel like I see a few new people for the live that I haven't seen in here before. So anyone who's new to a live, welcome. Thank you for being here. So diesel is 25% cheaper than regular gas in Thailand. Oh, that's interesting. So here it's more expensive, and I think a fair amount more expensive. But so I wonder, I'm going to guess that Thailand's farm equipment does work on diesel. So maybe Thailand will be kind of better off, which is amazing because, people want to look at certain countries and be like, oh, the developing nations, like, no, how they're not like us, they can't do as well as us. But look, they're probably going to do, in the farming is probably going to have an easier time with the cheaper cost of diesel. And you know what? There was that resolution that was going through. What was it? I can't remember exactly what it was, where these countries were signing up to be controlled by the WHO, so the WHO can step in during any type of medical issue, pandemic, whatever, and assume control of the country. And which is ridiculous. All the nations, first world nations were like gung ho. Yeah, we're going to sign this. We're going to hand over our sovereignty. And you know what? It's the developing nations who said, absolutely not. We're not going to sign over our sovereignty because they know better, because they've dealt with people like Gates and all these people that are coming in under the guise of helping. And they said, absolutely not. So the world was saved by the developing countries, which, I think we've talked about it before. You start to wonder if these elites, the way the elites treat the developing nations, I'm starting to wonder if they're afraid of them. If we look at the way they treat African nations, there's probably too many secrets happening in Africa. Free energy, maybe they're just doing things better in a lot of ways. So of course the elites always want to mess with Africa, but that's a whole other spiral that I'll be good and I won't go into because I could talk about that a long time. So AB5 just passed, which removes independent contractors from operations in trucking in California. Main concern is California Post are ran by independent contractors. ODD, but FYI. I don't know what ODD means, but this is concerning. So California ports are mostly ran by independent contractors, and California is now like, oh, no. You gotta, no, we don't want you operating in trucking. I mean, if that's not like outright intentional to disrupt things, because we're already in a place where things are already disrupted. They're not majorly, insanely disrupted, but we're getting there. So California, if they really cared, would be like, oh no, we can't mess with things anymore. We need to be really careful. We need to, kind of start fixing things. Instead, they're doing the opposite. You know what? And I think that's intentional, and I think that's very telling. So thank you so much for telling me that and telling us all that. That's like, it's not surprising, honestly, right? It's just constant now at this point. And majority of people just are blind to it or just don't care. I don't know. And this is why they just keep getting away with this stuff, because they're like, oh, regular people don't care about this, aren't awake to it. But Thankfully, you guys are. So thank you. So you just learned Con Ed gets its power from Canada. Lovely. It's yeah. Uh, yeah, how hard is it to generate power? We have so many different ways, and then they're outsourcing. And again, like I think that's like giving away control, giving away power, which leads to bigger issues. And it is now you will know that our big power plant in the suburban region of New York City is Indian Point. It's amazing because besides the disposal being complicated and some accidents back in the day, generally you guys know that nuclear power is safe and it's so clean, and it's besides some thermal pollution issues, as a whole it's cleaner than everything else. It's amazing and it's so effective. And all these people that claim to be loving the earth, they should be clinging to nuclear power. Instead, around here people villainize Indian Point. Oh, close down Indian Point. Oh, it's terrible, it's this, it's that. No. And I'm like, where do you think you're going to get your power from? They're not magically going to start making solar panels and wind panels here, which, as we know, aren't environmentally friendly. We're going to start outsourcing to Canada, which I'm going to guess is running on coal. And all these people wanted to villainize nuclear power. Now Indian Point is shutting down, so we're going to lose that. But sad, because we know that it's so ridiculous, the whole electric car thing, because a lot of people run on coal powered. So when you're plugging your car into your house, it's not clean. First of all, lithium mining isn't clean. And then when you plug it into the house, you know, you're charging your car in coal power. It's silly. But here it was pretty cool because I'm like, okay, at least the people that are plugging in their cars is running on nuclear power. But yeah, so Con Ed gets his power from Canada. Now imagine if we start having issues with some other countries, and there's NATO issues going on, and Canada decides to go, you know what, we're not going to give you power anymore. Or if Canada has some sort of power emergency and says, you know what, no, we need the power for ourselves, and they cut off our power, we're going to be in a bad situation. So I had no idea we're getting our power from Canada. That's lovely. Shoot. So why are food processing plants catching fire in the USA so often? I know. And everybody's just like, whatever. No, it's not whatever. But you know what? It's probably not even on the news anymore. But it's like, it's not a toy factory catching fire. It's not a car factory. No, it's the food factories over and over and over. No, that's not suspicious at all, right? Not an attack on our food supply. No. This happens every year, right? It's insanity. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's so nice, you guys. Oh, everyone is live right now? Okay. But thank you guys who are choosing to be in here now. That's so awesome of you. Yeah, I never know when anybody's live, so I feel like going live tonight. I have the time. Let me do it. So hopefully people they don't get angry and be like, you're stepping on toes. But thank you for choosing this one. Okay, so Wales is live too. Okay, I didn't know that. No idea. Oh, and streaming with Jim Rat and Bullish and a few guests. Okay, so there's some big people, some big names over there. So I come in and like all of Hex and Pulse streams, even if you can't watch them all. Thank you so much. I appreciate dropping in and seeing you guys. Even someone's just coming in and out to just say hi. It's nice seeing you all here. So thank you so much, Hex Hoddle. Oh, Maddie's also on. Okay, so we have a lot of people on all at once. So, elbow cough. Did I miss something? Did I accidentally cough not into my elbow? I'm the only one in the room, so it's all good. So, yeah. So then now, speaking of power, I keep hearing talk of rolling blackouts, and I don't know what's going on, but it's cracking me up. You're funny. So, I keep hearing talk of rolling blackouts over and over again, and rolling brownouts and stuff. And I know they like to say, oh, it happens certain times a year, the consumption's too much, so, and that's going to happen over the summer. But it's always talk of it, and it's always short. It's never a big deal. And then certain regions never have them. Like here in the New York suburbs, we never have the power go out. It's really rare. It's we don't even, nobody's even prepared for it. People don't have generators, here. Only now, you start now the Generacs become popular. You're starting to see more of that just thrown on the house. People are like, okay, why not? It's there. It's hooked up to the natural gas line, whatever. Because of like Hurricane Sandy a few years ago, or more than a few years ago. But like here, power outages do not happen. But there's been talk now of, and everybody's talking about it. Like the police in my area are like talking that this is what's coming. We're going to have blackouts. We're going to have power outages. And it's weird. It's concerning, and you're hearing people talk about that all over the country, and it's like that's weird, But today I was driving through a local city, and like I've mentioned before on other streams, if you've heard me talk about it, New York, city, obviously huge, and it's surrounded by a bunch of little cities. And these little cities are actually quite big. So they're bigger than a lot of big cities in other areas, but to us, they're little cities because they're just located outside of New York. So that just lays the groundwork. And I was driving through one of these little cities, and I look over and I see outside a government building. It's like a little government building complex with a courthouse and government offices and everything. And there's a ton of new generators there. And it's not like the temporary generators they drop off when there's a construction project. It's like new generators. And it's got some temporary fencing around it because it looks like they're going to install some fencing or a wall. And there's no construction to be found. So it's not like I'm mistaking this for construction generator. These look like building generators that are brand new, intentionally put for this building. And, people could say, oh, it's preparedness. It's good just in case. But like I said, we don't have that happen around here. Like it has to be really extreme conditions, like Hurricane Sandy or something. So to invest that money in, generators for a building complex is not worth it financially, for something that might happen every 10 years, so it's really odd to see. So it's kind of like, what do they know and what are they gearing up for? It just didn't feel right when I saw it. Certain feelings just kind of sink in and you're like, something's up. The cops are talking about it. The government buildings are getting ready. And then the whole country is talking about rolling blackouts. So yeah. Doesn't make me feel good. So let's see. Oh, thank you so much. And thank you guys for being willing to talk about it. Because, people think like being prepared is like a crazy person thing. But it's like, look at the world around us. Something good is not coming. So why stick your head in the sand? Better to not be caught with your pants down. So thank you, Truth Monster. Hi, Rock Edison. Nice to see you here. Okay, let me catch up. Oh, and thank you for choosing me. I appreciate it. I know I should do a crypto stream once in a while, but I feel like I always feel so dumb when it comes to crypto, because my knowledge is basic. But yeah, but yeah, I should get back and do something here and there. But I do like these off-topic streams, and like I've said before, like I love that a lot of us in Hacks and Pulse Chain are into the same things and think the same way in a lot of things. So it's nice to be able to like talk to you guys and bounce this stuff off of you. So yeah, gosh, though, you're right. There is like a lot of crypto content every day. And it's hard for me to keep up with. So you have an emergency box that has camping gear, just in case it gets real fast. Yeah. It's great to have bug out bags, have stuff ready in your car to go. Go bags, what do they call them? Bug out bags. There's a ton of stuff, have your EDC, your everyday carry ready that, it's just like your standards, your go-tos. We could do a whole other stream on that sometime. So thank you for bringing that up. So yeah, well, with that power stuff, yeah, so that's weird. I mean, like I said, that expenditure for that type, to be in a region where we don't have blackouts and to have that expenditure is just concerning, because like, let's say you have to shut down the government for a few days because your power goes out. You're going to lose less money than putting all this in. So I'm like, they know something's coming. Something's weird. If they start putting fencing around the entire building, then I'm going to be disturbed. So, hey, Hex Luther, nice to see you. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So we have that constant talk of rolling blackouts. We have this false sense of security with what's on the food shelves. We have the constant attack on our food chain from all angles. And it's not just one thing. The fact that it's coming from all angles shows that they're really concentrating their force on that. And you know what? Why not? Because okay, people aren't going to be happy if there's a blackout. Fine, you can deal with it a little longer, but there's no food. Like in 72 hours or less, things are going to go bad. Mhm. Like it's like riots. Some people say cannibalism. I think people would wait, a while before we start having cannibalism, but people will go nuts over food. If your kid's hungry, you're gonna have violence, you're gonna have rioting, you're gonna have people breaking into wherever they can to get food. Another reason maybe that it's good to leave the populated areas. As much as I love living in a very populated suburb, I see the dangers in it and the safety issues that it comes with. Um, so, what am I writing? I had a little list of stuff so I don't forget to talk about it. And I guess my hand has to play with something. So I just grabbed my pen from my list before. Because it's like those fidget toys the kids have, right? That's my pen. Uh, so so yeah, so power outages, food security. Also, have you seen all those airline cancellations? Now I know a lot of people like to blame it on, oh, look at, the airlines are all getting canceled because they stopped the mask mandates on the planes, and now all the airline staff is getting sick and everything. If that were the case, you would see that in every industry. I don't believe the cancellations are from sickness. I'm sure that a lot of cancellations could come from the fact that they fired so many of what's fired so many people over medical choices. Yeah, maybe I'm sure they're having staffing issues from that, but there's something more to it. Like someone we know was supposed to fly into Ohio, and then all of a sudden she's in a panic because she has to get there on a specific date for something, and every single flight into Ohio is canceled. So she had to then take a car and drive out to Ohio. Like that's weird. Like I understand sometimes that happens, with storms or issues. But once they pass, everything picks up and gets back to normal, especially in a state like Ohio with so many people and so many cities. There's constant flights going into it, in and out of it. So, like, having that major an issue with cancellations is kind of disturbing. And then I keep hearing it happening everywhere. And Katie Hopkins has also touched on it that they're having major issues in the UK with like airlines deciding to just have like less traffic into it, more cancellations, more issues. And she says that she believes it's a plot to make travel harder because the WEF wants people in place. They don't. I don't know if it's a carbon footprint thing that they claim it's about. Meanwhile, they're jet setting on their private jets. But they want to make. She believes they want to make things so much harder so that you just go, you know what, forget it. It's not worth traveling anymore, because they're having major issues over there. And but to me, like I said, I always think it's always something. Maybe I'm pessimistic, but I always think there's something bigger at play, something more sinister. What that could be, other than inconveniencing people, I have no idea. But my friend, her brother is a pilot, and I asked her about this because I'm like, okay, am I just misreading it? Maybe there's always been this many cancellations. Maybe something else is going on. And she says, no, my brother told me that it's constant. So many cancellations. I forget the way she described it, but basically it's like unprecedented the amount of cancellations that's going on. So that makes me sit and take notice because again, it's happening from every angle. So they're messing with our food, they're messing with our power, and they're messing with our travel. Like, it's there's something big at play. And it's like, is this all they're going to do? They're just going to mess with certain things? But maybe I'm more pessimistic. I believe this is priming us for something bigger that's heading our way. Insert pen jokes here. I'm afraid to read below now and see what that was. I'll skip that section. No, it's good. I could take a joke. I'm teasing. So Americans have never experienced a real food shortage. The panic would be insane. Yes. Okay. Back in the day, they have, but those people are gone now. But when you talk about Depression era people, people are always like, oh, my grandparents who lived through the Great Depression, they would do this and they would save this and they would always be preserving this and doing this. And, oh, it's such a strange way of life. But, looking into what's coming now, I totally get that behavior. And I find myself like looking at things, looking at things twice. Like, should I recycle that jar? Or is that going to come in handy if something goes bad in the future? And not that I'm a hoarder in that way. It's just like, it's this panic of now kind of looking things through that depression lens and thinking they acted like that for a reason. How can we start kind of utilizing that and looking at the world that same way? Because step one, being aware, already puts you ahead, but how can we put ourselves ahead even more? You live near Mormons. Food shortage would just be a walk away from robbing the neighbors. Those Mormons are pretty hardcore when it comes to their prepping and their food supplies. I know people who have gone down to a Mormon cannery to stock up, and it's pretty legit. It's notable. But I wonder though, because the Mormons are so good with preparedness, are they just like fully stocked up on guns and defense so that no one's going to come into Salt Lake City or whatever and rob them? Like, I'm actually watching a TV show, Physical, and there's a Mormon character, and you see him in his like food supply room, like getting things ready and polishing his guns. So that's funny. Yeah, most of the fellow Americans need to fast. Yeah, like I said, should I worry about these 10 pounds or just let it come off when we're starving? So I'm sorry. And again, I'm sorry if that humor is too dark, but yeah. Okay, well, thank you for hopping in now. I appreciate you coming in for this for the time you were here. So you stayed a while. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Yeah, no, so it will be a good diet for people. But I'm like, let's start cutting back now so we don't get so hangry when the time comes. It's a time to prepare. Every time you go food shopping, yeah, buy food for the emergency pantry, canned goods, dried grains. Costco, Sam's, go and buy that 50-pound bag of rice. It's not that expensive. Find a way to, put it somewhere where it won't get messed up, and maybe buy one of those every once in a while. Because even if you don't want to eat that much rice, there might not be a choice. Or you can even use that to barter, or you can use that to give away to somebody who's hungry. So a lot of things you could do with it. Mm-hmm. They got to be armed, right? With that much food in there to protect. Okay, so some are stocked up on guns. A lot have only money to stock up on one or the other. Oh, okay. Gotcha. So, man, Utah sounds like it'll be wild if things go down. But yeah, like I said, I think those canneries were such a cool thing. And the prices when they went years ago or maybe it wasn't years ago, maybe like 10 years ago, were just incredible and so worth it. And I had checked prices maybe about a year and a half ago, and just like the prices have skyrocketed. So, or at least in my area. So either they know what they have and they know the popularity and want to start making money off of it, or maybe it was like inflation before inflation got this bad. But yeah, if you have one near you, go take advantage of it. You don't have to be Mormon. I am not Mormon. And you can, I think the stuff is at cost, or at least it used to be at cost. I don't know if they're trying to pull a profit from it now, but a great way to stock up on those number 10 cans that last a few decades. So trying to get Sums on your stream for a while, you would get along great. Oh, well, thank you for being here, Sums. Very nice to meet you. I feel like I've seen your name somewhere before, but thank you for listening to It Is Now Now's invite. And I'm sorry, I always call you by your username because I can't remember if you're okay being called by your first name or not. Utah will be the beginning of the Wild West again. It really does sound like it. Fascinating place. And it kind of does look like the Wild West, but I guess it is West. So let me see if I hit my topics. Also, just a side note, the military now is allowing people in like without a high school degree or GED, which has never been the case before. I also find that weird that they're trying to like build their ranks. Now you can be like, well, we need to protect ourselves from other countries, especially if something happens with Russia or something, but I don't trust it. I don't trust the government. So I'm like, why are they trying to stock up on people that, the fact that they're willing to take people they didn't take before. So to me, because, I always have that, and I know it's not a nice thing to say, but I always have that, wonder, are they going to turn the military on the people? Because we've had a purging in the ranks. So the people that are left in the military, they people, and I know there's a lot of good people, but I wonder if there's a turn over to people that they can manipulate to. And I'm not saying you're more manipulated if you don't have a high school degree, but with the purging of the military, and we've seen the purging happen through many means. We've seen it start in the Obama administration, and then now we've seen people thrown out for their medical choices. So it kind of seems like a turnover. And now they want recruits that they wouldn't have taken before. So to me, it's just a weird coincidence. Again, why are they building it up? Is it really to protect us, or is it because they're planning something on the American people? And I know that's extreme thing to think, but the elites, the powers that be, are constantly attacking us from every angle. Why wouldn't they turn our own people on us? But it's just a thought, but maybe it's a little too much, too insane. The military is killing traditional boot camp training as well. They're trying to train psychotic minded folks. Okay, so I'm not too insane for saying that. That like, I feel like, yeah, there's something up. There's something not right in the military. And yeah, and I've heard that traditional boot camp like does not exist anymore, and that there's a lot of coddling that goes on. And doesn't coddling kind of make people a little nuts too? Like, think about Norman Bates. So yeah, it's just there's something really creepy going on. And I know purging of the ranks is like something that always kind of happens during different administrations, but we have seemed to have been under something continually since the Obama administration, and it's only ramping up. And and I understand that they threw a lot of people out because of medical choices, but was that an excuse to purge the ranks? Like, oh, these people aren't compliant, so they're not going to work for what we need them to because they're already resisting. So, yeah, there's the pen again. I know, I like to play with it. Like, it's like a fidget spinner, which I used to confiscate from the students because they were annoying with their fidget spinners. The Burmese gave up on conquering Thailand because they had endless supplies of food. Interesting. So does that mean that Utah then just become its own independent state because these people have endless supplies of food? Yeah, but that's it just also shows your statement, the power of food supply. Because, like if you looked at the Holodomor, because you can get people to submit to your demands by starving them out. Food is a means of control. So if there's an endless supply of food, you can't control those people. It's something to think about. If you're ready, if you're stocked up, then you won't be manipulated by whatever's coming. Okay. Well, thank you guys for not being like, oh, look at that, she's so anti-military and terrible. No, I'm not. I know people in the military. My father was in the military. I understand that it used to be a good thing, but now I truly wonder, and especially with these endless wars that are money makers, I really, wonder what their intentions are now. And I feel bad for people that I see going in because like they think they're doing the right thing, but look who they're serving under. It's really, it's sad, and it's a scary time. It's really warped if you think about it. You believe we're witnessing the Great Reset, globalism during the people versus the people. I'm with you. I mean, and the fact that like the WEF outright out loud calls it the Great Reset, like they're not even hiding it anymore. It's complete insanity. So, that's why the Second Amendment, right, is always under attack, because trying to think where can I start? Where can I start with this? There's so much to say. But whenever something terrible's happened in history, people have been stripped of their rights. Because so that they wouldn't resist, this right specifically. So there's a reason it's in place. And people want to debate it with everything that's going on, but all the arguments are, the arguments that they come up with are ridiculous. And one of the, it's kind of a tangent, but something and I'm pretty sure this is like a real part of history, that it's not just an urban legend. Japan wanted to invade the continental United States, and they didn't, because they knew that majority of US citizens at the time had guns. So they said there's no point, because if it's not for the military, we're going to get taken on by regular people with guns. So weapons are a deterrent, right? So when you see attacks on the Second Amendment, there's a reason. And I guess that's all I'll say about that. Because I don't need to say much. You guys know what I'm getting at. Oh, the army has reversed that. Okay. But still concerning. Yeah, definitely. The fact they would even entertain that, to me, is concerning. It really makes you think. But that's interesting. Okay, so I didn't realize that they reversed that. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, exactly. It's truly it's protecting. It's not just, people just wanting to be, be a sheriff, be the Wild West, and how they like to present that. No, it truly is a protection of the entire community, which is the topic of tonight, community, and the importance of community. Because, like, with all this insanity that we've talked about that's going on, look, I got the pen again. All this insanity that's going on right now in the community, in the country, if you don't find people that's on the same page as you, then yeah, you're gonna say it. Yeah. If you can't find people on the same page as you, that starts to become dangerous, because the thing is, people want to be a lone wolf when things hit the fan. But, being a lone wolf will get you, maybe in certain situations, it'll get you far, it'll help you. But past a certain point, you're going to need other people, because as humans, we're built to be in community. So whether, it's a mental thing, and, your mental health will start to deteriorate if you're a lone wolf for too long in these bad situations, or even if it's practical, you might need help with something, or somebody might need your help. It's important to be in community. When I say in community, I mean with like-minded people. So like right now, this is a community. We might not live near each other, but we are in community with each other, because we are on, if you're in this chat, if you are in this stream, you agree, I'm sure, that something is headed this way and that we need to be ready for it. So right now we are in community with like-minded people. And exactly, that's what I want to talk about, a local network of like-minded people, because I know for a lot of people that's really intimidating. Like, they say that it's in I'm getting distracted by this chat. Okay. Yeah. If you got this sorry, this just threw me off. Yeah, sneeze. I guess that's the bleach look, but I like this shirt. Now I forgot where I was going. Hey, nice to see you. Thank you for hopping in here tonight. Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes you don't have a choice in the lone wolf situation. And that is what it is, and you have to do what you have to in that situation. But for a lot of people that have the option, there are people who willingly choose that, and you can see how that can become dangerous over time, because being in community with other people, with like-minded people. And I'm trying to regain that train of thought where I was at with that. But like in preparedness, like right now, as we're getting prepared, you can do this on your own. There's Google. You can learn so much through YouTube and through those means, right? But if you are not getting together with people in your local area and learning skills together, then you really are missing out. Like, things that I used to do, like I used to go to medical classes with people, with other people who were preparing for the same reasons. And it was nice because, there is a stigma with preparedness, and people think you're completely nuts, that you're a conspiracy theorist, and that you think you're insane. So being able to meet other people who believe the same thing, you're able to bounce ideas off of each other. You're able to learn more than you would have known, because, people are sharing info, like, here, check this out, look into this. And you can, you're sharing what you know with them, and you're just kind of like, and it's a supportive thing. You're supporting each other, you're pushing each other along. It becomes more motivated to be prepared and to be learning when you can, when you find people who are your people, who are on the same page as you. And especially as we get into bad times, like, we've seen how insane people have gotten over these past couple of years, so if you have your option, when things go bad, do you want to be surrounded by people who are completely nuts and are like, yeah, let's go burn everything down, and let's do this and let's kill the people that disagree with us. There's a lot of people who, it sounds crazy, but there's a lot of people who are behaving like that lately. Like, do you want them nearby? Do you want them as your is your neighbor? Like, are they going to come to your rescue when things go bad? No, you want to surround yourself with people that you know that you can rely on, that you can depend on. And it's important, that you're of the same mind, like, oh, let's say your neighbor who's like, no, I'm gonna trying to say figure out how I could say this without getting, myself in trouble with YouTube. But let's say you have a neighbor who's like, no, absolutely nobody can walk down my street, and I'm gonna to make a problem with them, and nobody can be here. But then you're like, oh no, I want to help everybody who come, who comes up my street. I want to have be charitable toward everybody and rescue every person. You can have a big conflict when things go down, right? So when I say find your people, it doesn't mean getting up and relocating to an area with similar people, but if you can, that would be awesome. Like, we have certain communities that are just not cohesive in the way people think and the way people act, so like if things go bad, where I live in the New York City suburbs is going to be like dog eat dog, everybody out for themselves. Things are going to go really bad. But let's say I moved up a few counties to upstate New York. Upstate New York is the culture is not like what you would think, New York City culture is. Upstate New York is like a Midwestern state, like it's really red, I would say. At its essence, New York is a red state. Not that I'm red or blue. I can't stand any of it, but there's a lot of good things with red. So New York at its core is a red state. So you kind of have to think sometimes like, okay, do I want to actually completely pick up and be in community with people who I feel safe with, pick up and move people that I know will come to my rescue, people who I am going to come to their rescue. That's one option. Then you have the other option of, okay, I can't do that, but I want to find who's in my area. I want to know who's on my team. Because like, in a place like the New York City area, the New York City suburbs, you don't know who you can say what to. And the problem is, it's not just you thinking that. Even if you find somebody on the same page as you, they're also staying silent because they're afraid, So there's a lot of fear around here with people, with people sharing their thoughts, ideas, and opinions. And the problem is when everybody walks around like that, then you never know who's on your side. You never know who's like-minded, and it's very hard to be in community. So you have to intentionally go out and seek ways to be in community with people. So I want to talk about that intentional seeking out. But I'm going to catch up on this chat first. Yeah, and Hex is the best community. Yeah, because that's another kind of community. If you can't find people in your local area, be connected and in community with people online. I've done that, and it's amazing. There's so much good to come out of that. Like I met friends at the medical class I took who don't live anywhere near me, but we stay in contact and we've exchanged information and we've visited each other. So there's a ton of ways to be in community. But so yeah, find exactly. So in terms of reaching out and finding your local community, one of the benefits to finding people who are of like mind, people who want to be prepared in your local community, is that you can learn from them. And you could kind of barter something too. Like if you know how to sew and the other person knows how to knit, be like, hey, let's teach each other, and let's and let's find ways to help people. Oh, you don't know how to can? I'll show you how to can. Hey, can you teach me how to suture? Not that field suturing is always a good option. But what did Jesus do? It's a good example. Yeah, you know what? Even if you're not religious, that 90s catchphrase WWJD, what would Jesus do? Like that whole giving onto others, that whole idea of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I know it's so hard nowadays to want to do good for other people and be charitable when people are just completely acting like garbage left and right. But we hope that those things would be returned to us. So we kind of still want to be to show that good and to do good unto others. Because you know what? If we stop doing it, then everybody else will stop doing it. You know, it becomes a chain reaction because if we're discouraged and we stop doing good, then other people are going to get discouraged and stop doing good. Another thing I love about Hex is that there's so much goodness and charity and people doing good onto others. So, such a great community to be a part of. Um, I'm skipping that comment, Hex Luther. You're allowed to say what you want, but I'm just not, I'm going to pass on it. But thank you for sharing your thoughts. Do you think there's still hope for those in denial or is it too late? You know, sometimes I hear a good story of people who were just like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden woke up to things that have happened, things that choices that they've made these past few years. And like, I was deceived, it was wrong. What can I do now? It's so I think there is some hope, but for the most part, I don't have a lot of confidence because I feel like if at this point you haven't figured out, maybe you'll figure it out, but it might be too late. But at this point, if you can't put two and two together, like maybe you just don't have that capacity and they're not gonna, they're just gonna stay in denial. But like I said, sometimes I hear a story every now and then. So some people are still waking up. So I guess that's why, if we can, I think we need to help plant seeds in people to kind of wake people up. A lot of people don't want to be spoken to directly about certain things, but if you can just like plant little ideas in people's heads, sometimes does well on it, and a little bit of hope for that. But yeah, like I said, I take a little bit more of a pessimistic approach because I'm like, come on, if you haven't put two and two together at all during these past 2 or 3 years, I'm like, how hard is it? This, like, they're blatantly calling things the Great Reset. Like, how can you still be in denial now? But there's so much compliance and it's weird. Everybody seems brainwashed. Everybody's turned into a zombie and they're way more compliant than they were 3 or 4 years ago. So something is in the air. Not literally, but something has happened to people and I think have just made people just compliant zombies. Oh, okay. As you push up though, it starts to get because you know what, besides the city, New York as a whole, if it wasn't for the city, I think it would be a red state for the most part. But yeah, you do get some, counties closer to the city that do tend to go blue. Someone on Reddit was calling for going into red towns, Trump towns, and burn them to the ground. You know what? Yeah, I saw that. I mean, I heard about that, and it's warped because you don't if you don't like somebody, if you don't agree with them, the right thing is just to let it be. Don't argue, just leave it be. But people are so deranged that they're like, you know what? I saw somebody write on a church like, if abortions aren't safe, then you're not going to be safe. And the crazy thing is, like, I'm not going to get into the whole Roe v. Wade debate, but like, if what do why are you they want us to fight, why are you fighting with the regular people over this? Like, I'm not the one changing laws or doing anything, so so why would somebody come at me and hate me? Why would people want to burn my house down or whatever? Why? Because they voted red. And people are trying to blame this stuff on Trump. Like, it's just very strange, the blame game that people are throwing around. And I think it's intentional. They're trying to pit people together. And we've had this rhetoric started, I want to say, in '08, of just this attempt to constantly put people at each other's throats. And it just gets more and more. And I think now it's really come to a head where people are like, you know what, we're just going to go into your towns and burn them down. And what does that sound like? It sounds like a civil war, right? It sounds extreme to say, but it sounds like we're on the verge of a civil war. And, and not even like between different government factions, between the people just turning on each other, left versus right. It's really, and it's scary. It's scary to think because people, want to go to these areas and think that they're safer in them. They want to flee to people, areas where maybe they could find like-minded people, but then look, they're going to be targets in these areas. Like, I've heard that there's a lot of targeting going on in rural areas because of that association that rural people, think like this or are like this. And, there's a thought where people are like, okay, well, let's move to a rural area because when things happen, we'll be safer. But look, there's no safety. So we really are in dark times, and and we're at a powder keg moment, I think. It's gonna make you um I don't think it's denial as much as being misled. Yeah, true. Yeah, I think, you know what? I think you're right. You know what? It is being misled by the mainstream media, and the people that don't watch mainstream media are then being misled by the people that do watch it. And then that is what creates the denial. So you know what? It probably goes hand in hand. Um yeah. So so how can you find people in your local community? So, and I think, like, once upon a time, if you were religious, you can go into your house of worship and find people on the same page as you. But now we live in a time where, even like in your church, in your temple, whatever it may be, like, you might all believe in the same faith, but you still have this massive divide of ideology going on where you can't even find people on the same page as you. Like, for me, I find it really hard. I am a Christian, and I find it really hard to be in church. And I'm not saying don't go to church, like, I'm just in between churches at the moment. But my struggle is, I find it hard to be in a church where everybody is believing in the same thing, the same faith, the same Bible, but yet people are just like, it just polar ends of it, like people actually living it, and then people that want to rewrite it to suit their own interest. And it's like the regular church versus the progressive church, and it's both happening at the same time in the church. And I find it very hard to sit amongst that newer progressive ideology that seeks to rewrite the gospel to suit its own interest. And it's hard because you feel like you're in church, but like none of these people like minded. So I think, so that is kind of a hard thing, because you can no longer go into your house of worship and find people on the same page as you. So that becomes a struggle in and of its own, where you just got to keep visiting different churches, different temples, and finding one that's legit, I guess, is the best way I can put it. So that's one thing. And then I should have written this down. Because I got so many things to say and I keep losing my train of thought. So yeah, it's just, yeah, it's true. It's broken. It's sad. Christians are being misled. We're really at an odd place right now. So really, if you do want to find like-minded people through your house of worship, and you are a person that really, that you firmly believe in your religious text, you really have to do your research. You have to be careful. You have to listen to what they're saying in the pulpit. Speak to the priest or the rabbis or whatever, and make sure that it's the real deal, before you get into something. I'm not an expert at that. I know, I don't know how to explain it well enough, but I think you guys know what I'm getting at. So yeah, no, and I'm completely on the same page as you. There's something going on internally. There's a lot of deception happening right now. So another way you can, find like-minded people, churches and temples. Will I expound? Would you just expound on what specifically? Like the place of worship? Okay, so, like, I guess my expounding, I'll put it in my terms. I believe that there's the straight up gospel, and it is what it is. And then there's now progressive Christianity that seeks to rewrite the gospel to suit whatever political ideology or agenda. And I find it hard to sit in a church with people who are all like, oh, no, none of this is valid. You can rewrite it whatever the way you want it. And you can interpret it whatever the way you want it. Then I'm like, okay, if you're just making up your own religion or whatever, why are you coming to church? It's very odd. So for me, I find that very hard to be around. And for me, it's important to find a church where you're with people that are on the same page and that's Bible believing. So that's my thing. So another great way to find like-minded people in your local community, believe it or not, is meetup.com. So you can go into meetup.com, you can type like any type of subject, you could type survivalism, camping, canning, whatever you might be interested in, and you can find groups in the local area where you can like get together with people, talk about this stuff, learn from them. And it's actually like especially if you live near a major city. And it's a lot of the times, like, okay, they might charge a fee for a certain event, but a lot of them are just like, no, we're just charging, like $2. Come in for $2. And it's a really great way to connect with people because you know what you're getting into ahead of time. The topics they're touching on, what what they're going to be teaching on. If you don't even have, it's not even like a club you have to join, like, oh, the local survival group is teaching canning. I'm not into joining that whole group, but apparently, they let anybody come into their canning class. We have groups in the New York City area who are like, okay, we're going to learn about bug out bags, and then we're going to learn how to pack them, and then we're going to go on a 5-mile hike with them. Like, it's such great opportunities. Like, if you can learn that on your own, you can totally be a lone wolf. But if you go into these classes, you gain skills. And then on top of gaining skills, you get to meet other people, and then you start having an idea of who's around you and who's on the same page as you, and then who you can team up with if there's a situation. That's another way of community building. Another thing, believe it or not, is YouTube. It's a lot of these YouTube channels that really teach different types of skills, medical skills, preparedness skills, food storing skills. Some of them actually offer classes where they will come over to your area. That was how I took my medical class. A really well-known medical skill person for austere medicine had or has a channel and would go tour around the country and offer these classes. And so I would go to the class when it was local. And then when you were in it, you got to know all these other people in the area who were getting ready in the same way that you were, and it was a great way to exchange information and skills and everything. And I still talk to these people today, and this was 10 years ago. Even in the comments, sometimes people exchange info in the comments, and you find out somebody is near you. I think Southern Prepper One is like, here, everybody in New York, connect in the comments, and then you start finding out who's around you. Trying to think what other ways. See, I just hopped on last minute with all this in my brain. I should have planned this out in what's it called? But let me know if you have any other ideas on how to connect with people in your area. Should have planned this out on paper because I remembered stuff and then I forgot. Hex group to meet up. Yeah, that would be cool. See if Hex people are in your local area. Okay, cool. Yeah, foraging class. Yes, thank you. That's another one. So Course Horse is another one. On Course Horse in my area, there's a foraging teacher who, for relatively inexpensive, will take you through the forest and like teach you how to forage for mushrooms, for berries, for greens, everything. And if you have farms in your area, there's like a lot of like farm skill type sharing thing that happens where you can go on to a farm and learn skills, and you're basically a volunteer, and they want those extra hands. And then in the meantime, you are learning these farming skills, and then sometimes they send you home with produce and stuff. Like, there's a farm I'd love to go to upstate, and they're always looking for volunteers. And these volunteers, she's like, yeah, you come and you farm and everything, and we basically load up your car with free produce as a thank you. But then in the meantime, you're learning these skills, and then you're meeting other people who are into the same thing. Same thing in the foraging class. Most regular NPC people, right, non-playable characters, aren't going to be in a foraging class. So people are in a foraging class, they're on the same page as you in some regard. Another one would be Project Appleseed. If that still exists, that was such a cool way to meet people and such a fun way to learn history. And you would gain like marksmanship skills in the process. And I still talk to one of the friends that I made through that. And that was years ago, because besides having these Appleseed classes, they would also have an Appleseed meetup where we would just all get together and talk different topics, related to Appleseed. So if you look, there's a ton of different ways you can start just meeting people. The problem is, I know that I know that there's a nervousness, that there's a hesitation when you're an adult. I've heard people say that it's so hard to make friends as an adult. And you know what? Maybe it's easier for me because I'm an extrovert and I want to talk to everybody and I want to meet everybody. So, so for me, that's hard to understand. But if you're, if you're not like that, and and it's kind of a struggle, I do sympathize with that. I can't, I maybe understand what it's like, but I can see how that can be difficult. But I think, going into these groups, people who share common interests, that's a great way where you can start, you start up a conversation about what's going on in class. So it's like an easy icebreaker. You don't have to maybe do the small talk thing. And then you end up with new friends who might think like you or who could teach you new skills and you could teach them new skills. It becomes a nice exchange. So, I should throw the links in this what is it, the description box after the fact, but I'll throw meetup.com in there, Course Horse, Project Appleseed. I'll make sure to put all those in there. Also, there's this great website called Survival Blog, and it talks I think there's like, there's different resource sections, and I think one of them talks about how different ways you can meet people in your community and find like-minded people. Another one is the ARRL, Amateur, is it Radio Relay League? I forget, but people that promote amateur radio, and they usually give free classes so that you can get your ham radio license. I know I'm a little suspicious about the ham radio license because, like, if you get your license, doesn't that give whatever authority the right to come into your house? If like for a search or whatever of your radio equipment if there's a problem. So I'm always wary about that. But look, a free class and you got other people interested in the same thing. So there's so many ways you can go and just find people in your community and connect with them. Like, and it's, especially like somewhere like New York, you would think there would be nobody like that, nobody on the same page. But the amount of people I've met who feel that same way. And then when we walk into a group like this in class like this, like it's completely mind blowing. Um, so, so forage in class, follow a tigram into the jungle. She'll teach you everything you can eat. You know what? Yes, go, elders, people that have gone through hard times. Trying to think, are the people who survived the Great Depression still around? I don't know, but or even children of those Great Depressioners. Ask them the lessons they've learned, what they saw their parents doing. Follow a tigram into the jungle. I think this is awesome. I think this is amazing. Like, the elderly aren't just some nursing home people that you discard. They are contributing members of the community and they're willing to teach you, so ask elders these things. There was another thing that, oh yeah, in Europe, like so many of them survived hardship during World War II in Europe and gained so many skills. Like, that was my grandparents. They were children in Europe during World War II, and them remembering and what their parents did and how their parents got by and what their parents traded for what food wise, really had an impact on them that they remembered their entire life and they shared it with us. And when we are getting prepared and ready, my family, we are just like, we keep those things in mind when we're thinking of things to stock, things to buy, things to have on hand. We remember those lessons from Europe, like things like salt, the importance of salt, the fact that my great grandmother would trade gold for one egg or gold for salt, like that's insane to think, that you would trade gold for that. But you're like, okay, this must have value. Let's have more salt on hand. So your wife said you don't. You said the thing about talking to people. You don't like talking to people. It's all right. My sister's the same way, so I get it. So maybe, Hex, you could do that on your wife's behalf, right? You could be the one going and finding people in your local community. Though I feel like with Mormons, it might be a little easier than it would be in like LA or something. Yeah, exactly. Actually, that was what was going through my head. You can just totally learn it and not get the license. You're not obligated. And it's not like you're doing anything wrong. You're not obligated to get that license. And you know what? And it's pretty cool because around here, those ARRL people, they're like old timers. And, there's not a ton of young people in this area in the hobby. So when they see fresh meat, or whatever. They're like happy. They're not like pressuring you to get the test. They're just like, cool, you're into it. Let me show you, let me explain whatever you want to do. So it's a pretty cool course. Unfortunately, I never finished it and I kind of regretted it because I know that I could have sat in it and not take the license, but I guess that just it freaked me out. So put yourself out there, introvert here. I'm a beginning gardener, so I started talking to neighbors, asking about their garden and if I could take cuttings or seeds, and they always say yes. I love that. So that's so fantastic because like you don't have to venture very far. These are just people in your neighborhood and you're getting to know people in your neighborhood. Like it's so important to know who would have your back in your neighborhood if things go down. Like I, I know who would and who wouldn't in this neighborhood. So it's a good way to kind of scope people out too in that sense. But this is awesome because you're learning gardening skills and maybe like you're bringing on plants that you wouldn't have brought on otherwise. And who knows, they might be learning something from you in the process too. Like it's so cool. Like one of my clients, she gave me a yogurt culture, which I had never done before. And I learned yogurt making from her just because she's like, here, you want some? I have extra culture. So it's always great to learn these skills where you can get them. And it's amazing because so many things are free like this. You don't even have to pay for an expensive class. Um, and even fitness, like, there's hiking groups you can find at meetup.com. If you're out of shape, because, fitness is something that will be important if things go down. And I'm not talking hand to hand combat, but even if you got to walk a long way to pick something up, grab some food or whatever, and you can't take your car for whatever reason, or there's no more gas, fitness is really important. And there are ways to get fit on meetup.com for free. There's like a hiking group that takes you through, you can take a strenuous hike and not strenuous hike, and they just want $1. They want you to contribute $1 when you go. I don't know what they do with the fees. I'm sure they do something good with it. Oh, you do have your ham license? Okay, the class wasn't great. So yeah, it must vary from area to area. So around here, they were pretty cool. But but you have your ham license. It's such a great skill to have. Now, did you just get the basics license or did you go all the way? So you have your ham, no license. So, okay, I like that. Little anarchy going on. So Thai grandma advice is not great. Google knows better. Salt and pepper on everything. Yeah, stock up on those seasoning spices. I know the salt and pepper isn't a spice, but you know what I mean. Yeah, stock up on your salt because you can do a lot of things with salt. Stock up on your pepper. Go to the dollar store, get a bunch of those cheap seasonings, if you don't want to spend a lot on it, or get the giant Costco version. So many options. Guy on TV says 4th of July celebration is for a certain segment of the country. Unreal. Wow. I'm telling you, it's constant division. They're trying to turn us on each other over and over and over again. And nobody realizes it. Everybody's just like, oh no, they must be the enemy. Instead of, because you know what? Because if you're turning on each other, nobody's going to look at who the real enemy is. Salt and pepper is basic. Yeah. But hey, the basics, start the basics if you don't have anything else. 4th of July. I would say so. Yeah. Not for the British. For real Americans. That's true, right? But I guess is 4th of July politically incorrect nowadays? There really is something special and sweet about the 4th of July. Yeah, I don't know what to say about the 4th of July, but I used to counsel as sleepaway camp as a volunteer for a week out of every summer, and it would fall over the 4th of July. And when you're just in the country, just doing like a traditional 4th of July celebration with just a bunch of excited teenagers who are just having so much fun at this 4th of July party, it really makes you look at 4th of July in a special way. You really do see how American it is, and it'll always stick in my head like that, or at least that's my memory, because not a lot happens where I live for 4th of July. So skip small talk and go straight to the interesting topics. What are people saying about crypto right now? I guess what are people saying? Honestly, I haven't paid a ton of attention to crypto at the moment because we're in that bear market and I know it's going to bounce back. So I'm just like, cool, just let it be. I wish I can jump in on those hex prices right now, though, man. If I could, I would be filling my bags right now. And I have seen a lot of people filling their bags. So good for you guys who are doing that. Crypto is a pyramid Ponzi. Guy asked Biden how long these gas prices. Oh, lovely. And somebody I know was in Europe right now, and they said everybody was praising Biden. And they were like, it's not really praiseworthy right now. I mean, because listen, whatever's, I don't trust any politicians, so it's not that I'm specifically against Biden. I think they're all problematic, but man, Biden is really especially scary. And is it that it's paying for the war in Ukraine, or is it just? I think it's to drain our pocketbooks because right now, like my car, my SUV, typically would take when gas prices were great, maybe like between 30 and 35 bucks to fill my entire tank, and that was nice. It was doable. It felt good. Now to pay like over $70. And I know that's not a lot compared to what most people pay, but like, man, I'm feeling it, and I feel bad for anybody that has to commute a long way to work, and that it cuts into your profits. Like I said to one of my parents, I'm like, I'm making more money than not a massive amount, but I'm making a little more. And I was excited because I thought it would be helpful. But like I still feel like in the same exact place where I started. And then when you look at everything, it's like, oh, well, because the price of everything's gone up. I'm paying double for gas at every fill up. And that's just me. I don't have a family to support. I don't have any children to support. So I can't imagine now being in a position where you're commuting a long way, your gas is eating into so much of the money you're making, and then you have to worry about your family, what's ahead, food prices going up, putting all that extra food on your table. This is, like we said, it's so intentional, but who does this hit the most? It hits the middle class the most, because if you're below a certain income level, you get help. If you're above a certain income level, you don't have to work. So specifically, this is hurting the middle class, but it seems completely set up to destroy the middle class, because middle class people right now are suffering. I heard a story, or I read a story on Twitter where somebody's like, I just saw a guy have a breakdown at the gas pump because he can't afford to get to work anymore. I mean, and this is just the beginning. So can you imagine the way that it's going to go? Like, I know I should be topping up my gas tank, every now and then, so it doesn't hurt as much. But even when it's still intimidating. It's still pretty scary. I still dread it, and I still can't get around to topping it up. And then now I'm dropping down to almost a quarter of a tank, and it's like I keep putting it off, but I keep dreading of what I'm going to see at the gas pump. So apply for any type of discount program you can at the gas station. I use an app, and the app, by using it to pay, they take like 15 cents a gallon off. So anything helps. Using Ukraine as a scapegoat. Yeah, I mean, it's constant. And the fact that today, they just sent another $800 million to Ukraine. And then it's like every day, there's almost a billion. It feels like there's almost a billion sent to every day. I don't know how much we're up to at this point. And they say they can't cancel student loans. And I know there's a lot of debate about whether you think it's right to cancel student loans or not. And I'm not going to get into that. I'm just saying, as a whole, people want their student loans canceled. Now at this point, with all the money that's been thrown into the Ukraine, you wonder, they said they couldn't cancel student loans, and now they're like, here's all this money. I'm like, that they could have done that to help the people with their student loans. And again, I know there's debate. People don't believe that the government should pay off. That aside, I believe that canceling student loans would be a big economic boost, because all of a sudden people would be able to afford houses, afford to have more children, so on and so forth. So it would be an economic boost in this time. It would be a help. But instead, they're choosing to fund some things that are happening in the Ukraine, which It's a little suspicious considering the Bidens had a lot of dealings in the Ukraine beforehand. You wonder, um, are they trying to placate Ukraine so Ukraine doesn't release some information about them? I think it's about more than trying to help a country through a hard time. There's a lot more to the story, a lot more going on. So, yeah, he's definitely using it as a scapegoat, but it's his scapegoat. It's his excuse for everything. Um, Take home work truck is the answer. Fortunately, around here, there's not a lot of company cars and work trucks that people get to take home or not. I have seen where that happens, but around here, it's pretty rare. Sorry, just catching up here. Russia's totally the boogeyman. I'm like, who were they blaming for everything before? Because all of a sudden, it's like they found their boogeyman and they're just constantly going for it. Yeah, and you know what? They're stealing our money any way they can. Just because they're not reaching into your pocket and stealing your wallet, they're finding every other way to take it. Besides taxes on taxes on taxes on taxes, it's like here's inflation and here's and here's gas and here's everything. They want to weaken us. So, um, did you mean Heine? 15 cents off per gallon. What brand of station is this? I really want to know. Oh, is it Kanoko? I think it's in the Kanoko family. And why is 15 cents a lot per gallon? Yeah, because if you like use the app and you connect it to your bank account, is it direct debit? They take off 15 cents. I think it's 15. I feel like it used to be more, but it's at least 15. They take it off the credit price, which around here, when you take 15 cents off the credit price, makes it cheaper than the cash price. And I end up paying like something like, sorry, I get like per tank about like three something off per tank. So I mean, yeah, it definitely adds up. Um, yeah, Biden has property in the Ukraine, and we know that Hunter had a lot of dealings in the Ukraine. It's a little too convenient. Iran is 18 cents a gallon. Is that true? You know, I know that they have a lot of oil over there, but so do we. We have the ability for cheap oil, but you know, that's a problem too. Everything's a problem. No, I am not a mom, but I am a former teacher, and let me tell you, I am such a proponent of homeschooling. I've honestly thought about maybe like talking about homeschooling on here because schools are never going to come back. People think like, oh, maybe like, yeah, we're going to change the school board and we're going to go fight with the school. Schools are not going to come back. And I feel like what people fail to realize is that schools are government schools, they're government facilities. Like the government doesn't do anything good. Why would you trust the government with your children? And I know people are like, oh, there's private schools or whatever, but the government still has ways to access those schools through the standards, through curriculum and everything. So it's not as independent as you might think. Back when I was in parochial school, it was like above and beyond the local public schools. And I live in an area with excellent public schools. But now it's all the same. Homeschooling is the way to go. Yeah, exactly. My mom was just talking about that today. My mom was like, it really makes you wonder what they're trying to keep Iran from revealing about. I mean, not Iran, Ukraine from revealing about them. Okay, so 15 cents is a lot. So 20%. Okay, so it kind of almost nullifies it. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's Kanoko, part of the Kanoko family, because when I look at the app, it seems to cover all of those. In Kuwait, everyone is born a millionaire. Man, so many resources in those countries. It's really amazing. It's just, a lot of corruption happening. The pandemic got rid of public schools and call centers. Both can be done from home. Yeah, exactly. And I know that there's people that say, that's a privilege. Not every parent can homeschool. Like it's too much to I don't know. Like it's not cost effective. But the thing is, if people really want to make something work, they can. And some of the ways people do make things work, like let's say you're a single parent and you need to work and you cannot stay home with your kid and homeschool. A lot of times there's parents that get together and do homeschooling co-ops, so like if you're comfortable with these parents homeschooling your kid, you find a different way to contribute to the homeschool co-op. Um, or if you maybe have a relative, you can leave the kids with during the day. Some people do it this way. Relative watches the kids, and then when you get home, you homeschool. And I know that's kind of intense and could be a lot for some people, but some people make it work that way because also what people need to realize, people think school, is this thing that lasts from 7 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon. Homeschooling is so much shorter because you cut off out so much of that wasted time. Because also think about it, if your kid moves at a faster pace than everybody else, then you can teach them way faster and there's way less wasted time. But let's say your kid is struggling on something, you can spend more time with them on certain topics. And, where maybe they'll get left behind because the teacher keeps moving forward with the topics at school. There's so many benefits. In homeschooling, people think it's expensive and that you have to buy these expensive curriculums. Not in the day of the internet. You can access so much for free. I'll have to do a show about it. There's so much I can say. And I think whoever homeschools, it's awesome and you are all on the right path. So thank you so much for telling me, Sums, that you do that. Wow. Okay. Yeah. And we are rich in resources. And I know people like to say the environmental damage, but we really have gotten to a place where we don't have that level of environmental damage that there used to be. But everything's political. Born rich, but keep it from us with the birth certificate. I've heard about that the birth certificate is business. Like maybe that would be a conspiracy for the Saturday show, but really interesting. Yeah, they're indoctrination camps run by the government. They're indoctrination facilities. I used to work in one, and let me tell you, there's such an impressive feeling in schools. Like they're not even the kids look happy. I was in a great district or something, but there's just this feeling you feel. There's an oppressive feeling. They're not healthy, nice places, schools. Most kids don't thrive in it. And when does like boxing a kid into a square, when is that ever healthy? When I don't mean physically, I mean mental boxes. Homeschool, yeah, I mean everything in life, right? Just like it's like they say there's no such thing as unbiased because there's always naturally going to be a bias in everything. So I guess with education there's always going to be something that you're instilling in children, that there's an indoctrination. But at least you have control of what's being taught. So I mean, and it yeah, there are parents that like outright indoctrinate with really specific values their kid and do some insane things. Let's think about the Duggars and what's going on with them. But like let's say you can just keep your kid at home and like feed them like mentally, like, what, I'm not going to stifle your creativity. I am going to let you think outside the box because I'm not going to teach to the test. I am just going to give it to you as is. I'm going to explore the topics that you're interested in. The kids that I know that come out of homeschool come out so much more advanced than regular school kids. And they're so much more curious and they have such an amazing range of like just things they know and skills because, if they finish their schoolwork by 10 o'clock in the morning, they have the time to do any type of hobby they want. It's pretty amazing. I love it. I lost my, so your spouse did homeschool, never got a GED. So was that just because of like, was it just poor homeschooling or did she, like, did her parents, were they just not homeschooling right and they didn't want her to get her GED? Or was she just like sick of it and was like, I'm done. I don't like the way you're teaching. I'm not even going to bother. I'm curious. And you know what? And a GED means nothing. Because you know what? Some of the smartest people I know don't have degrees. But thank you for sharing that with us. That's interesting. Yeah, because you know what? Because unfortunately, just like schools are imperfect and have their issues, homeschooling is imperfect and has its issues too. But you know what? At least your kids aren't in government indoctrination facilities. The idea of the government handling children seems a little something I was trying to remember a sci-fi. It's a little dystopian to me. just handing your children over to the government for the government to educate them. I don't know. It's a little dystopian. Um, Sorry, there's so many things we could discuss in here. Every child is going to be molded, but it's the responsibility of parents. God's design that parents train up their kids. Yeah. So, for those of us who are religious, it's like it's sorry. Sorry, I've been trying not to cough this whole time. Allergies, not COVID. Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. So, if you do, which I know Hex Luther, I know you don't like this, but if that is important to you to be able to instill your values in your child, you get to be the one teaching these things and not some like psycho that you don't know. Because here's the thing, people people put more effort into background checking their babysitter and than they do for teachers. Like obviously nobody background checks their teachers. They take the school's word for it that the teacher's a decent person, but really you have no idea who you're handing your kids over to, and some of them are some really creepy predators, and to be honest, some of them are, from my experience, psycho. I find teachers to be very unhinged. And I'm sorry to anybody who might be a teacher, but in this region, a lot of unhinged teachers. And that concerns me because it's like you wouldn't hand your kid over to an unhinged babysitter, but you'll totally let an unhinged teacher be teaching your kids. I'm telling you, like the way they react to things and they flip out and they just completely lose it. I've been on the receiving end of that at times. They don't behave like regular people. And it's true. It all depends on the parents, So just like the quality of schooling depends on the teachers in it and your school district and everything, the quality of homeschooling depends on the parents. Oh, gotcha. I'm sorry she went through that. Yeah. So it's just like, it's being born and who your parents are really, or is a roll of the dice. So many of us that, have been educated by I've never been homeschooled, but those of us who have been educated by our parents in the correct way or just raised up in the specific way, you really realize how lucky you are because not everybody has that. So I've seen some incredible homeschooling parents, but unfortunately you do end up with situations like that. So just like it depends on the school, it depends on the parents too. So I'm sorry you went through that. And I hope you do know that it doesn't matter. Degrees don't matter, because a lot of it is life experience. So you have life experience now that I'm sure has allowed you to overcome that. So, and thank you for being willing to share that. Homeschooling kids do not come out more advanced. They're subpar to be the best. Okay, maybe in Utah, but I'm telling you, the homeschooled kids in New York, and New York or this region in New York has really nice schools, but the homeschooled kids in New York come out way better math skills, everything, every type of subject. I've never met a homeschool kid that comes out subpar. I have once in a while when I have met some people where I'm kind of like doubtful about their education. They weren't from this area. So I wonder if it just becomes, not saying we're better, trying to figure out where I'm going with this. Okay, what I'm just trying to say is maybe it's different in some other parts of the country. Maybe unfortunately there are poor curriculums people are working from, that really do affect your education of your children. But over here, every kid I've met, and I've been around a lot of I used to work with, with kids in camps. I used to teach, I used to tutor, I used to babysit. The most advanced intellectually, educationally, socially, in all regards around here in the New York area are the homeschooled kids. Sorry, I'm jumping back and forth. I'm sorry if I missed any comments here. All righty. Yeah, getting a GED is, yeah, exactly, like getting a handwriting license. You don't need it. You don't need the, yeah, like I have a few degrees and I don't use them. I'm like, whatever. And I'm like, the stuff that I do know and I'm interested in, how much of it actually came from school? Like so much, so many of the stuff that like, that I know and I'm into is just stuff I learned on my own. So you really don't, yeah, you don't need a degree. Um, Gosh, the chat's hopping and I just keep talking and getting behind. Look into the American States Assembly to learn about your rights and freedoms. Oh, with the birth certificates. Thank you. So thank you for putting that up there. American State Assembly. Your degree is in elementary ed. The women who became teachers were so mean and nasty. You know what? When I was thinking about the teacher who was nasty, mm, elementary school teacher, I accidentally parked in her spot. I'm telling you, there's a way to be nice about it. You don't come out of the car yelling and screaming and saying you're going to block me in and call people on me. You know what I mean? Like, and the fact that that was the reaction just for something stupid, I'm like, what do you like in a classroom handling other people's kids? And that's what really made me think of like parents don't know who is with their kids and who, what, how they behave and what they're instilling in people. And yeah, and I definitely have seen some weirdness as a teacher. Nothing extreme, or bad, but things that make you go, what? So I'm probably gonna hop off soon because we've been going for almost 2 hours, and I'm sure you guys are tired. But I've had such a good time chatting with you guys about this. Um, yeah, because it it comes down to, I guess everything in life comes down to control. At least you have control of who's around your kid. Yes, that could be used for bad if we look at the Duggars and how crazy and controlling they are. But these nuts that I've been around in different schools, yeah, and now as I'm talking about it, more of them, more of different circumstances are popping up in my head of the ways I've seen some of these teachers behave. I feel like the most unhinged people go into teaching. It just attracts people who are just out of their minds. So at least you have some control over not letting these people near your kids. Um, so you should add the keyword homeschooled to your title. I know, because now it's turning into a homeschool thing. I want to do a separate thing on homeschool sometime. Maybe we could talk about building a curriculum without having to buy expensive curriculums and how you can build it around your child's interest. Um, yeah, exactly. So you know what? At least she was able to overcome that with her life experiences in her brain. I feel bad for the people who can't overcome that situation. Um, so, but but yeah, and I'm glad you have overcome that. And thank you again for sharing because I'm sure that's like, that's a scary thing to talk about because we do live in a society where for whatever reason, people really value degrees and education and everything. Meanwhile, you look at these people who are educated and they can barely function in real life as a person, they hardly know the basics. And it's like, what is the point of those three letters, PhD, behind your name if you can't do anything else in life? Look up what a cuspid number is. It's on your birth certificate. Your bank account number is one, your social security, all 9-digit numbers. They all want to own us. They want us to be their slaves and their drones. 0. I'm going to guess 0. You know what? It's interesting because I've heard of people faking degrees for certain jobs. Like for teaching in New York, you need a master's in most schools. No, I don't think anybody ever called my school and checked about my master's as far as I know. Okay, but I guess because I have a teaching license, it means I have a master's, and is the fact that they've seen the teaching license. But it's still weird because I'm like, I don't know. Did they really like check into me that much? Like did they call up my school and then I don't know. It's weird. It makes you wonder. So I think so many times people do lie and fake this type of stuff. I am so behind. So sorry, guys. You're in Arizona, so homeschool is so good. Our governor met with homeschoolers in charter schools to ask, what are they doing different than public? I love that. That's fantastic. That's so cool. And 0. So you've had to show your GED 0 times. Yeah. Like they say that you need these degrees and these certificates. Meanwhile, yeah, nobody actually ever, looks into it. I've heard of people getting to like big deal jobs and like completely lying about their degrees and nobody ever looking it up. Um, Alrighty. Homeschool, yeah, independent thinkers. Because one of the things about schooling is they teach you the test and, and you have to answer things like this. And if you don't, oh, you must have a learning disability. Meanwhile, a kid's creative. And then they tamp down that creativity and say, you're not allowed to be creative like that because no, 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 you must have something wrong. So no, there's no independent thinking allowed. But you know what? It's intentional because what happens if we have independent thinkers? They're not compliant, right? You think for yourself, you become not compliant. Um, well, thank you guys for being here. It was nice. It feel like it's been a while since we've chatted. So thanks for popping in. True, you can control who you hang out with. Yep. So that's, yeah, coming back to community. STEM curriculum is only what's ever needed. It's true because everything kind of does, not to be cheesy, everything stems out from it, right? And then everything else I feel like is a natural progression. Like if you want to teach history, you can teach literature through it or vice versa. Everything kind of is just interconnected. And especially though, if you do the STEM, it's what do they call it? They call that interdisciplinary learning. So you can teach STEM to teach reading and to reinforce reading skills. You can use it to teach I was going to say language, maybe not language. You can use it to teach history. You can kind of connect lessons all together and somehow, you want to teach history. Okay, let's relate it to the history of engineering and science and let's teach it through that way. Really, if you go with that as the basis, you can totally connect it to everything. And I'm really doing a terrible job at describing interdisciplinary learning, but if I ever do a homeschooling video, then I will go deeper into how you can connect STEM to everything. But yes, I do agree with you on that. I might not agree with you on a lot, but I do agree with you on STEM. So, well, thank you. Thank you guys for being here. And thank you for popping in here. And anyone who's new, thank you, Sums, for joining for the first time. Yeah, so it was nice chatting with you guys. I know this got a little off topic from community, but still, all this relates to what's ahead. Because you know what? If things go bad, you're going to be educating your own children at home. But find your community, find your people. Do not be afraid. Get yourself out there. Use those websites we talked about, but also, oh, and I forgot, this is something else I wanted to talk about. When it comes to people, I know it's really hard sometimes because, or at least around here, you don't know what you can say to people, because you don't know if people are on the same side as you, of the same mind, and then it could possibly become a problem if you say something out loud. But there's little ways you can drop hints and seeds, and you can see people pick up on it. You can see certain things in people's behavior and realize whether, you're on the same page or not. Like one of my friends who I've known a while, there was a few things said here and there that made me go, oh, I think she thinks the same way as me, and she's interested in the same things as me, but I have to be careful. So you find certain ways to introduce things into the conversation, and I did, and then I found that we were on the same page and on so many things, and it was mind blowing. And I'm like, and here's this person I've known for a few years, and we never realized that. So sometimes it's about being brave, but you can be brave in a way that doesn't expose yourself. So watch for those hints, and then you drop your hints too. So that's just another little tidbit about finding your people. But don't be afraid. Go out and just find your people, and you'll be happy you did. So, and I know we do live in weird times, so just be careful where you're doing it. Don't show all your cards until you think that you really do trust these people. And again, you don't have to, I'm not saying show all your cards, but a little thing here and there. Oh, I'm into food prepping and this and that. And I'm saving seeds, for when things happen. So yeah, I think the big thing is just be courageous, be brave, and put yourself out there. And sometimes it could be scary, but for the most part, it'll usually turn into something good, and you'll be so happy you did it. So, and let me know how it goes. Let me know in a future live stream how putting yourself out there and finding your people and finding like-minded people, finding your community, how it went. And again, my DMs are open, so if anyone wants to talk about any of this or tell me how it's gone for you, definitely pop in my Twitter DMs. I'm sorry, this, no YouTube DMs. But yeah, let me know. So you guys have a good night, and I will see you on Saturday for our stream on CERN, because on July 5th, CERN is starting back up for run 3 of the Large Hadron Collider. I think that's what the L stands for. And people aren't too happy. Could potentially mean a lot of different things. So we're going to talk about the history of that and what people have, think might have happened with our timeline and what could potentially happen, because this run 3 of the Hadron Collider is going to be at record-breaking energy levels and intensities. So we haven't had the Hadron Collider running at this level before, and people think that it could spell disaster. So we will be talking about that on Saturday. So I will see you again. I will see you guys then. Have a good night. And I did not watch Curse of Buckout Road yet, because every time I come home this week, I am so tired and I just go right to sleep. But because work, but everything's calming down a bit with work. But I was actually thinking about it yesterday, so I will be watching it. So thank you guys for being on here. Yeah, get an electric car, right? $50,000 electric car. I love how the government's saying that, right? Oh, you can't afford gas, just get an electric car. Yeah, I can't, I had to turn in my lease. I couldn't even get a gas car. So I bought my lease out. So yeah, and then they want us to buy electric cars. They're so out of touch, man. These people have no idea. Or do they? And they're mocking us. But yes, you guys have a good night. And yeah, we'll talk about those CERN portals on Saturday. All right. Have a good one. Bye. Thank you.